What's up, everybody? Welcome back to On the Warpath. Sanchez 405 with you. And if you're new, make sure you click that subscribe button. Hit the bell so you get notifications anytime there's new content posted. And as always, like, comment, share this video out because y'all know we talk about the Washington Commanders. And no Warpath Wednesday yesterday because we're on a bye week. And then it was Thanksgiving, so it was a short week. It was some vacation time. But we got William back here. And off the break, off the victory, the 42-19 victory over the Tennessee Titans, and the proverbial get right game, bro, as all facets of the game started out with a 40-yard touchdown run by Brian Robinson. Team rushed for 276 yards total. Chris Rodriguez, after getting cut about a week ago, they could do no wrong, especially in that first quarter. First four drives ended in touchdowns for this team, and we back at it.
I mean, Corey, I'll tell you, the Thanksgiving holiday couldn't have come at a better time because I had some choice words following the Dallas Cowboys loss.
No, you
was
didn't.
Pretty much haunting me my entire Thanksgiving. Anytime that somebody brought up the team, I just was overcome with a wave of frustration and disappointment. But look, this team has shown it throughout the course of the season. And did they hit a little skid? Absolutely. Is it what they wanted? Is it what fans expected of them? Were they living up to their potential on the field? Absolutely not. But to their credit, they got punched in the mouth and they got back up in a big, big way, very akin to what we saw when they faced the Panthers. They came out against a weak football team and beat the brakes off of them. The offense was hot. The defense was hot. I'm excited to get into it because, I think it's easy to, chalk it up to a fantastic victory against the bad football team. But I think that there were a lot of interesting storylines and interesting takeaways from this game about some changes that Cliff made, some improvements that we saw with the offense as a whole. I think that Jaden showed a big change in mentality and in his own kind of poise and body language on the field. And of course, as Joe Witt said at the beginning of the season, we are continuing to see the evolution of this Commanders defense into a group that is at the very least average against most teams. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, even before we get into it, there was some news before the game. There is no longer a Ron Rivera first-round draft pick on this roster. Mr. Feed the Children poster child, Emmanuel Forbes, was cut, ends up in L.A. I mean, I've said this multiple times. It's not his fault he was drafted here. It's Ron Rivera's and company's fault, the incompetence there that he got drafted here. And personally, I felt like the fans never gave Emmanuel Forbes the chance. Christian Gonzalez is right there. The Patriots traded back because they knew Washington was going to take him. And I mean, this just is hey, send Ron Rivera his Super Bowl ring, and we'll move on from it. But your thoughts on Emmanuel Forbes getting cut before we even dive into it?
I mean, it was time. We knew it. I mean, BSJ has been the target of everybody's hate since they essentially phased Forbes out of the defense almost entirely before this, decision was even made. This was something that was the inevitable, signing of Marshawn Lattimore was definitely kind of the straw that broke the camel's back from him, where it became abundantly clear that he would no longer be a Washington Commander. I think a lot of what you said is right. I think that he was not given a positive or constructive environment to grow as a player. I think that the expectations and the task in front of him might have been a little bit too tall as a rookie first round overall draft pick. I think that how he was kind of thrust into the deep end in many ways with a already extremely angry and upset and volatile fan base was not good for his development. You could tell with the way that he kept going back and forth on Instagram that he never removed himself from what the fans were saying about him. And it clearly impacted his mentality and how he approached, as multiple coaches have said, not only his play on the field, but his ethic and practice, how he approached the game. Although I will say, Corey, I mean, did you see the video that the Rams posted of him that was
No,
flying
I
around?
haven't seen it.
I mean, bless his heart, but like the kid just looks like a toothpick. Like they showed he's doing one of those like warm up, back pedal, slow down, speed up, start again. And like people said that Jaden looked like a baby deer. Emmanuel Forbes looked like he was about to buckle at the knees.
Oh gosh.
Look,
What did you see all during the off season? He had one of his camps, and the kid that I guess this kid was was in high school or something, had thicker legs than him.
oh yeah.
And
No, and
I said,
this was
"Oh gosh."
arguably worse. After weeks and weeks of people saying Forbes has put on weight, Forbes is in NFL shape, they posted this video and I was like, Lord have mercy. Thank God that he is no longer a Washington Commander. But look, he's gone. We're
Mhm.
entering into a new era. I guess BSJ is the guy that everybody's going to have to hop on the bandwagon for, but fingers crossed, all signs pointing to Marshawn Lattimore making his appearance following this bye week. I think that this defense has shown an ability to continue to improve. I think that we are watching it evolve, almost a caterpillar coming out of its shell to hopefully become some sort of butterfly. Maybe the Commanders' defense more of a moth in this situation, but look, I think that his time came. We all knew it was coming. He took a lot of hate, a lot of flack from this Commanders fan base. I respect him for staying in the league. I respect him for finding a new destination, and wish him all the best with the Rams because I don't think that he'll be much of a value add to that defense.
Shout out Cam Curl. But anyway, about crying over spilt milk, good things happen, and we get back into the game. Cliff Kingsbury, you talk about the changes he made, and the biggest change was he heard it. This is my frustration with, I think, Cliff, is that all the stuff that we heard throughout the week, they line Terry up too much on the left side. They need to run the ball more. They did both of these things. They moved Terry to the right. He lined up on the right side of the formations more than he has all season long. Success. They ran the ball. Success. Why do you, it's just like when your parents get mad at you for doing something and then you do it without them being told. It's like, you can do this without me telling you this.
You know,
kudos to him for evolving a little bit, but I mean, my goodness.
well, I agree. And I do think that in a lot of ways, this was a sign of not just development for the Commanders offense, but I think in a lot of ways, a sign of maturity from Cliff. I think that a lot of his issues, as we talked about historically with his regression issues throughout the course of the season, his kind of cool, confident nature and that big old sun hat that everybody loves to see at the beginning of the season can lead to a certain stubborn and stuck in your ways
Arrogance,
demeanor.
right?
And he has failed to adapt season and season and season. And it's proven that it did not work. And I think that in the constructive coaching environment that he is now in, where he does not have to be the head coach, all of the pressure is not on him. He is specifically focusing on the offense, which is why I kind of dismissed a lot of these Bears rumors that were circulating around, because I think that he does not want to be a head coach right now. I think that the fact that he has Dan Quinn supporting him, and I think the trust that he has in Jaden, and just him having spent this much time in the league, he was mature enough to take a step back and say, okay, look, we need to evolve. And I think let's start with the Terry McLaurin change, because we had been saying week after week after week, and it really came to a climax in the Eagles game where the Commanders failed to find a receiver for the entire first half. He had to get Terry the ball. And you can understand that there is no true star power at the wide receiver 2 slot. Obviously, every single defense the Commanders play is going to favor Terry, but Terry is a top receiver in the league. He is a top talent league-wide, and the best players in football know how to get open, and offensive coordinators need to be doing everything that they can to get them open. And it almost felt like at the beginning of the season how we were talking about Terry's ability to draw coverage to create opportunities for other players. Teams no longer even really felt the need to favor Terry in coverage because he just wasn't getting the ball.
Right.
And whether that was Jaden in his reads, whether that was Cliff schematically, really not creating a lot of variation with him, always lining him up on the left side and really just sending him on kind of those deep routes without a lot of creative opportunity for him. Something changed in this game where he made a deliberate effort as early as that first drive to get Terry the ball. And it was the progression of, I think it was the pass to Terry, and then it was the pass to Noah Brown, right before the B-Rob run.
He caught ball. Noah Brown actually caught a ball.
Well, yeah, and that was the big thing too. I mean, Noah Brown finally found his hands from his feet, but opening up pass, run, I think it feels simplistic, but with Jaden, I think it's proven that that's what he needs to do. He needs to have those early completions to get it going. He gets an early completion to Terry where we normally don't even see Terry targeted in the first quarter. I think that something about it, it's hard to articulate, but that just sparked this offense alive. And I do attribute it to Cliff making a deliberate change in his game plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like they were the utilization just outside of Terry, but also look at De'Ami Brown. Some of the things they did with him, they got him going, and when De'Ami gets going, this offense is thing. You can think about against the Giants, right? He had that big third down conversion where it was just all him, and that led 2 plays later to a Terry McLaurin touchdown. Against Cleveland, he had that simple go right down the sideline, touchdown there. So I mean, you get him involved, and this is the guy we talked about at nauseum in the fan base about why is he here? Why is he here? Why is he here? And Jahan Dotson is in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why. Because if you look at him off the ball too, he's blocking. He's getting his opportunities, right? So I mean, when he's catching on, and he's not, I wouldn't say he's the number 2 wide receiver, maybe 3, 4. It depends on what day of the week it is, because yet and still, Luke McCaffrey, although he had 2 catches, he's still hasn't had that moment. That
there are some growing pains for sure.
Yeah, it's been some growing pains there with him, but I mean, you get him going. They even had Sennett out there. I think Sennett caught a pass. And then Zach Ertz. Let's be honest. Zach Ertz is not going to get you any yak.
No.
But if you can get him in a spot, and what Jaden was doing, I mean, on the interception, Jaden, let's be honest with the people, were defensive of Jaden because he overthrew. It's okay. Quarterbacks overthrow receivers and throw interceptions. Tom Brady's done it. Patrick Mahomes has done it. You name it, they've all done it. And that's not a big deal. But I just like how everybody had a chance to eat, even if it wasn't a lot in this receiving core. They were allowed to eat, and that opens up. That takes the weight off of Terry, because if Terry can get his 9, 10 targets and 7 receptions, everybody else can get 2 or 3 or whatever, and they can continue this offense can continue to be productive and help Jaden get in a rhythm. And like you said, he got those little short passes going and everything, and then that offense just kept on humming, and then segmenting it with the run.
Absolutely. And it was a season high 8 receptions for Terry McLaurin, which a little bit mind-boggling considering the numbers he has still managed to put up across this season with 2024, 61 receptions, 896 yards, like 86-yard, 9 touchdowns, a personal best in terms of season touchdowns for Terry as well. But to get this deep into the season and to have Terry only have 8 receptions as a season high, that's followed by 7 against the Cardinals, who, I mean, that was another stomping on behalf of the Commanders and a great offensive performance. I think that it's great to be able to highlight these numbers, but I still am cautious given the fact that we are doing this against teams, like I mentioned, the Cardinals and the Titans. Can we get Terry involved against the Eagles? Can we get Terry involved?
Now?
No disrespect, but we've done it in these smaller settings. They need to prove that Terry can get open and will get open when it counts, because we've seen it. For example, he makes the huge reception. They miss the extra point. Don't even get me started. But in the big moments, we need to be confident that we can find Terry, and they're starting to show that they are going to make an increased effort to do so. But I'm still cautious about it. Did love that we did see him kind of vary which side of the line which side of the formation he was lined up on. He did have a touchdown on the right side as well as the left side. I love that little floater ball that they got to him for the second touchdown. He was lined up on the right side for that play, came across the middle, wide open in that back corner of the end zone. And it brings me to, I think we were seeing the Commanders' offense continue to evolve in the red zone as well. That was a huge issue, was actually finding their way into the end zone. Of course, you get the massive chunk run from B-Rob, but the team was starting to look a little bit more comfortable. I believe it was the fourth quarter touchdown where Ertz did get his touchdown. That play seemed a little bit disoriented. Jaden kind of pulled it, then thought he was going to give it away. Nobody was there, and so he had to make that quick shovel pass to Ertz. But other than that, I thought we saw a very strong red zone performance from this offense, and that's something that we have been looking for the past several weeks.
Yeah, I mean the red zone was an issue against Chicago. Pretty much Chicago on it was an issue for this team when we should have blown out the Bears, but we had to get that Hail Mary love. But the red zone offense kept on humming down there, and that, especially in this time of year where you've got 2 outdoor games coming up at home. Against the Eagles and against the Falcons after the Saints, you're going to need to be prevalent in the red zone, because that's when you get into December, you get into January and the party. The red zone is premium spots for you, because you don't get too many of them, and there is no tomorrow after what is it, January 8th, I guess. That's I think that's the last week of the season. The regular season. We don't use the P word on this channel.
Not yet.
I got a moratorium on that word. But we talked a lot about this offense. Let's talk about this defense. And
briefly, let's talk about the run game really quick. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
let's talk about how successful the Commanders were in developing the run, and it was exactly like we discussed. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago that it was right after that. I think it was the Eagles game. The 2-pronged attack for the run came back in full force, and it is remarkable how much it opens up this offense's opportunities to move the sticks when Jaden is running with the tenacity that he does. He looked comfortable and aggressive running the football, for the first time since probably that rib injury. I think it started with his rushing touchdown when he was able to dance around a little bit, dodge a guy, tiptoe into the end zone, takes a hit, but still gets the ball across the line. Then we see him break out for a massive, 3rd down run to pick up another 15 or 20. He ran the ball with authority again. And that opened up opportunities for B-Rob. And we were talking in the group chat with some of my buddies before the game started. And one of them, right before the game started, said, we need a many men performance out of B-Rob. And 3 plays in, he comes in and rips off that 40-yarder. He was aggressive running the football. And how about Rodriguez? I mean, this is a guy that, like you said, not a lot of people that aren't Commanders fans would have been familiar with when he first came back onto the scene, getting pulled up after that initial Eckler injury. But what a fantastic game from this guy. 86.9 PFF grading, the highest graded player in the entire game. He's got 13 carries. I mean, he just got it done. And he has that same tenacious after the hit running ability that Brian Robinson has. And he just buries defense when you have 2 guys that are able to run the football like this. It's physical. It is It's powerful. It is the exact opposite of how I think about Jaden running the ball philosophically, where Jaden's ballroom dancing and they are heavy metal. They're going to hit you in the face as they run through the gap. I mean, it was a masterfully put together combination of passing to open up the running and using the quarterback runs versus guys like Brian Robinson and Chris Rodriguez to move the sticks on Sunday.
Yeah, Rodriguez had a game very similar when he played the Giants, right? Running off tackle, running in between the center and the guard, and that's what got him that touchdown, 90 some yards on the ground in the victory. And this is a recipe for success in December. We've seen stuff like this before. I think about when they went on the run with in 05 with Clinton Portis, and Clinton Portis did his power running and his finesse running at times because he was a good combo back, but also, they had Liddell Betts in there sometimes, and he would kind of spell Portis at times, and he could run the ball physically. So I'm not comparing the two, but you've got two bruisers back there with Robinson and Rodriguez, and most likely we won't see Austin Eckler, so you lose that pass
And
catching
I'm worried about
guy.
seeing him,
Yeah,
period, in the long
human.
run with the
Yeah,
way that he
human. Yeah,
neck injuries, how he blacked out after that hit that was deemed a concussion. I think that, with all due respect, he might need to be evaluating what his long-term future looks
right.
like, not only in Washington, but in the league.
Yeah, and I think his future, he definitely got to think about it. It's the same thing that I asked about Tua when he was out there. And granted, Eckler doesn't take the hits like Tua does, but I think those two gentlemen, they both needed to um, think about their future in football, because that's you're thinking about long term in life and your family and all that stuff. So prayers up for Austin Eckler, and hopefully he makes the right decision on there, because this is just a game. You've got life. He's a young man, so hopefully he'll be okay and he makes the right decision on that. So um, wow, but just you lose him, but you get that dynamic. You still got that dynamic running there.
Well, and it's
Um,
it's it's
mhm,
like we've said with this team all season, and I think that, like we've talked about time and time again, the run game is the biggest illustration, probably next to the defense, that the expectations when people were looking at this team on paper were not high. This is not
right.
a talented roster, or excuse me, this is not an overtly talented roster. There are stars in Jaden, who is a rookie quarterback, and at the beginning of the season, no one had ever seen take a snap of
Mhm.
NFL football. You had Terry, who had always been around a top receiver in the league, but with the rotating cast of characters that he had quarterback, was never able
Home
to
Depot
develop
quarterbacks. Yeah.
never able to develop a strong enough relationship with the guy that was throwing him the ball to really shine in the way that I think he will moving forward. But this this running group is a symphony for the Commanders. And when Cliff is able to rotate them efficiently and combine that with Jaden's running ability while focusing on the pass, which I think that this offense needs to continue to do, despite Jaden throwing that interception. People like to harp on it. I think that his arm is still the best weapon we have. But when Cliff is able to call a game like he did on Sunday, it feels like you're at the symphony, because every single part of this offense was working in perfect harmony. And of course, it was the defense allowing them to do that the way that they just kept getting them the ball over and over and over. It was really a matter of reps.
Yeah. And you mentioned the defense. Let's talk about it. I mean, Frankie Louvu, he did his thing once again. Aggressive, relentless. Bobby Wagner has a record set just below London Fletcher, most consecutive seasons with 100 tackles. Oh, also we got to give kudos to Zach Ertz, 50th career touchdown
Mm-hmm.
reception for him. But this defense, man, they are doing what we've asked for what we've asked them to do, is try to be a middle of the road average defense and just do enough. And right now they are doing it. They didn't get the interceptions, but special teams forced a fumble and they forced a fumble as well, which is weird. I just every time I'm like, we get another fumble. Like it's crazy that we've had some crazy fumbles. I think about the Pittsburgh game. I think about this game
Yeah.
too. But the Ball Hawks and Joe Witt is, in a way, he's being proven a truth teller. He's just like, hold on. He's got this quiet confidence. People thought it was arrogance from him, but it was quiet confidence that these guys were going to get right. There's a method to the madness. And like I said, we saw it against the Eagles. We saw it against Pittsburgh at
The
times.
Ravens.
The Ravens, we saw that they can go toe to toe when you need them to. It's just when they get to stop. Is it early on? Is it late? This is what's going to come into play later on. Is you're going to need to get more stops and more takeaways later on rather than early. While you'll take them where you can get them, but sometimes Dusty Baker will always call right the law of averages. So we'll see on that. But this defense, man, they're playing average ball and cooking bottom feeder teams, but they're doing the work.
I mean, I would say it's above and beyond, Corey. I think that already at this point in the season, it's above and beyond what any fan would have expected to see from this defensive unit. And it is, like you say, Joe Witt's quiet confidence. I remember at the very beginning of the season, we discussed when he came out and said, look, there's a process. This is evolving. Trust me. He has quietly, week in and week out, progressed this group further and further. There has not been a single game, I would argue, where we have seen a true regression from this defensive unit. Even in the past several weeks prior to this Tennessee game, when the offense was really down in the dumps and struggling to get anything going, we were seeing a defensive group that has continued to relentlessly evolve and really, at the end of the day, keep Commanders in games, because the offense in that 3-4 game stretch was not doing them any favors whatsoever. And when you look at this group, I think it is clear and obvious that you have to attribute its success, to the linebacker group. I think that Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner are the on-the-field leaders. They are the vocal leaders. It feels like every single week you're getting the Louvu in the locker room screaming his head off at these guys. They are the rock of this team, both, I think, offensively and defensively, along with Terry McLaurin. And I mean, you're looking at the season that Louvu has had: 8 sacks, 82 total tackles, 44 solo tackles, a forced fumble, and 5 passes deflected, a big pass deflected in this game against Tennessee for what looked like it was going to be a big old chunk play for the Titans. The group is phenomenal. And I really, for as much as I have ragged and fans have ragged on the defense for the past several years of Commanders football, I don't think that anybody is in a position to complain given the guys that they have on this roster and how well they've performed.
Right. And, I said this during the offseason. I said the one thing that I felt from this coaching staff, and it starts with the defense. I said, we may lose games, and we might be saying, oh, my gosh, how did we lose this game? And we have said that. These guys ain't getting blown out.
No.
They're not getting blown out. Every time they've lost the game, whether it's Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Dallas, or even Philadelphia, they've punched, they swung. And, this is what I just knew it from last year. I said, these guys didn't give a damn last year. This year, they do give, and you can tell on the defense, sometimes they have to overcorrect themselves, but they definitely care. And to your point, I had almost forgot what a linebacker was in the NFL because of the last 4 years of just poor linebacker play here, and just that position being neglected with David Mayo and John Bostic and all these other guys. I mean, who's the best linebacker that Ron Rivera had here? Kevin Pierre-Louis,
maybe.
And I mean, an aging old Thomas Davis. And look at that. People talk about Bobby being slow. I'll take Bobby at this age than I take Thomas Davis anytime, because Thomas Davis he could not move. At least Bobby can still tackle, and he's out there and he started every game for this team. And I go back to the Tampa game, and I think that's the worst defense it played all season.
But a testament to how they've continued to evolve week in and week out.
Right, and they didn't play with each other in that preseason.
No.
And I kept on saying, I said, well, I'm like, is it really that bad? They always say trust your eyes, but sometimes it's like, is it really that bad, or is this a cohesion thing? It was a cohesion thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say about Bobby specifically, what continues to impress me is working with Chris Long, the former Eagles great, former Patriots great. He would always talk about how he continued to get
and you forgot.
Yeah, and UVA great, obviously the most important one.
Did he ever be Virginia Tech though?
I don't think so.
I'm just
we don't talk about that though. But he would always talk about how, as he got older as a player, so what kept him great in the league was not his physical play, because obviously the body continues to deteriorate. It's how he evolved mentally, and he found those shortcuts isn't the right word, but shortcuts to, okay, I can take this angle and now I'm not expending myself as much. All of those little things that you don't think about when you're young and energetic and limber start to come into play. And I think that Bobby Wagner in particular is a great example of this in the way that he doesn't overextend himself trying to make a play where he's just not going to make it. And it's not, in my eyes, a lack of effort. He's like, I'm not going to make a play. I'm not going to make this play, so I'm going to save it for the next snap. But when guys are in his range, I picture him like Stonehenge in a vortex. Like, if you're in his range, he's this massive rock that he's going to get you. He's a fly trap. Anybody that tries to run by him, it's almost like he just has to topple over and just crush them, because he's continued to be so successful. I mean, he's 60 tackles, team leader for the Washington Commanders at this point in his career. I mean, he's been phenomenal. And with Luvu on the other side, and Luvu's versatility for how different these two guys are and how differently they approach the game, they've got this yin-yang beautiful flow playing with one another that has caused a lot of problems, including against Will Levis. I mean, the guy was on the move time and time again and forced to make a lot of throws under pretty immense pressure.
Yeah, I mean, wow. That you just loaded up. And also to your linebacker point as well, let's talk about the secondary. Mikey Samerstill.
My God.
I don't know if he can go. I mean, he got beat like any cornerback does. But that play he made on 2-point conversion, literally, they're catching that. And this is a 2-score game at that point.
Oh yeah.
But his ability, how he's grown, how people limited him into being a slot corner, and they had to put him out there on the outside. And he's beginning the ball.
And now will be, too, next to Lattimore. Almost as a guaranteed lock.
Yeah. I mean, we're good. And the safeties are playing well. Jeremy Chin.
And I was going to say, he is probably, between him and Mikey, they are probably two of my favorite players to watch on this team, offense or defense, because, I mean, I swear to God, Chin just comes out of nowhere like a bat out of hell on almost every single play. Like, that guy covers 70, he covers more earth than the Pacific Ocean. He is aggressive when he's tackling. He doesn't overextend and get torched. He is a ball hawk. He's got one interception on the year. I mean, that's tied with Fowler and Forbes, RIP, for the most on the team. Like, he's been phenomenal. And while we knew that they were going to get beat by guys like Zay Flowers, by guys like Jamar Chase, as you've mentioned, we're not getting blown out. And they're standing tall in the face of every single team that we play.
Yeah, I mean, dog. Yeah, they're straight dogs.
They are, and it's a unit thing. Yeah. Nobody would look at this roster and be like, there are guys that I would poach necessarily. Nobody
Nope.
would think that. But it's just like you said. People were wondering if it was a talent thing or a cohesion thing. And
It's
Joe Wood
cohesion.
Jr. has proved that it is a cohesion issue. And this group has gelled under him and Dan Quinn's leadership absolutely beautifully.
Yeah. Question before, because I got two things on this game. This is the first. This is the first one. Interesting comments on Fedarian Mathis on in Dan Quinn's press conference. Healthy scratch due to competition. They bring Carl Davis up and say he had been battling. I'd say again, Ron Rivera draft pick back in 2022. The writing's on the wall, and another one is about to bite the dust.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we discussed it on Take Command this past week, actually, for a while, and just the way that Rivera's draft picks have panned out is really indicative for how his entire career panned out, and the state that he left this team in, where all of the gaps on this team are places where he chose to make his draft pick. And we are now set back probably 2 years worth of picks trying to make up for that. And it's a testament to how important it is to get these draft picks right. It is why I have so much confidence in our entire front office now, between Peters, Harris, the whole gang, to get the job done. But I mean, you're right. I've been looking at everything. I mean, he was a good player out of Alabama. I will say, compared to Forbes in hindsight, I think he seemed like a safer pick than taking Forbes over Rodriguez, like we've discussed. But I mean, I agree with you. I think that, writing's on the wall there. And, I think that they are, as they mentioned in their initial press conference, what was it? Somebody asked about the roster and they paused for a moment and laughed. They knew probably before the season even started that many of these Rivera era draft picks were not going to be with the team once we headed into 2025.
AP's a gentleman.
Yeah.
He's a gentleman in that respect. How do we solve this kicking situation? Zane Gonzalez, I mean,
he's not the guy. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's clear. That's clear that he ain't the guy. And I've told this to a couple of fans. It's like, shut up. We don't know about kickers. And I mean, you look at Justin Tucker against the Eagles. He left 7 points on the field for them. But kicking is going to be a premium. And I get it. These weren't chip shot field goals, but he was pushing them.
But
he pushed them to the right.
To miss the way that he did.
Yes.
Come on.
It just, I mean, and people were praying for Zane Gonzalez. That was the craziest thing about this. If I'm Dan Quinn,
Siebert was good. I had no issues with Siebert whatsoever. Like, get him healthy.
No,
go ahead.
Oh, yeah, we have the compartmentalized memory, right? That we only remember what I say this all the time. The man won you a game in week 2 that you probably shouldn't have won.
Oh no.
We
7
should not
field goals, 21 points off 7 field goals.
You should not have won. We should not have won that game, but we did. And the guy has like 27 field goals to boot this season. And then just the way, I mean, they were like, he needs to be cut. He missed it. Brother wasn't healthy. It's the same thing we talked about Jaden Daniels back in Philadelphia. He was compromised. He wasn't healthy. However you want to call it. He was probably more hurt than he was injured. And that's just what happened. We got to get this kicker has done good things this season. Got to give him some grace. He's on IR. Probably won't see him the rest of this season. How do you solve this? I say bring in a bunch of kickers during the bye week, have a competition. Zane's on the active roster, but you bring in somebody else to compete with him. And then out of abundance of competition, if he's a healthy scratch, he's a healthy scratch.
I mean, I agree with you. I think I would expand it to all of special teams, and it's the epitome of, it's the epitome of Washington Redskins, Washington Commanders football, that just like any opportunity where something could go wrong and not go our way, it's not going to go our way. A chip
Mhm.
shot field goal, that's by no means a guarantee. Alameda Zacchaeus, bless his heart, a true who. God, get him off. Like, just get him off. Like, you should, like, it irks me that he's even given the opportunity to catch the football on special teams. Like, if you screw that up once as an NFL player, you're done. Just let him do something else. Find anyone else to put in. But with the kicking situation specifically, and it may prove my limited scope of kicking knowledge in the NFL, but I have like 4 friends that kick in college, and I've seen them kick 50-yard field goals. Like, you've just gotta think that there's somebody out there that could consistently hit a 30-yard field goal.
Yeah.
Like, hold an open tryout and just be like, if you think that you can kick a 35-yard field goal, come on down to Northwest Stadium. We'll set up the tee. If you can kick 10 field goals in a row right in the middle of the uprights, we'll give you a real tryout against Gonzalez, because, look, he is not the guy
Cool.
at all. I don't even, like, I can't even chalk it up to, like, the whole college game day. Like, I'm not the guy. I'm not saying I'm the guy, but I'm not an NFL kicker. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying the job is easy. I'm just saying his CV is not right for this job. And there
No.
is definitely some average Joe, somebody that was a soccer player in college, somebody that, was a backup kicker for Clemson, that wants to play on this Commanders team, that could come in and hit 10 35-yard field goals.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's
Like, tell me I'm wrong. There's just
no,
gotta
you're
be.
right. No,
Like,
you're right.
where are we? It blows my mind that we're so consistently
Bad with
unable to
kickers.
find a good kicker.
Well, here's the thing though. We can find kickers and they struggle with us and then they go other places.
Well, what
Graham
is, like, what are
Gano,
we doing? What is
Sean
it?
Squeezum. I mean, Dustin Hopkins got a contract, even though he was missing field goals in high altitude
Why are they
on Monday
always getting
night.
hurt too?
Yeah.
What are we doing to these guys in practice? Let them sit there and kick like
It's the
5 field goals in a stretch.
it's the turf. It's the turf. That's
Oh
what it
my
is.
God.
Well, we're on an old native burial ground apparently up there at Northwest. So I mean, maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Like I said, go out there, bring in some kickers, and if you could kick, we'll take it.
This is the
We'll take it.
PSA right now. If
Yeah.
you can kick,
Yes.
show up at the stadium. Somebody will meet you there. If you just walk
Chris
up to the
Blewett,
front
stay
office,
away.
bring your own tee, and just tell them you can do it.
Where's Brian Johnson? And he was okay for us.
He was fine.
He was fine.
I'd take him back in a heartbeat.
We won't take Blewett back though, because just that name, that's just
It's not a great
that's
name.
too bad. Yeah.
Bad on the jersey, bad when you call it.
Yeah, Chris Blewett. It's a kicker named Blewett. Low line and Blewett. So we no game this week, of course, and we go into the bye week. So I'll give you a couple of questions. On this team, biggest surprise?
Well, I think it's easy to say Jaden, given how high the expectations were for him, and for him to come out with, not only an astonishing but a truly historic start to his NFL career. I think nobody really saw coming, for even as high as I and other media people were on him. I mean, nobody could have expected that we were going to see the start and the performance like we saw from a rookie quarterback, let alone Jaden Daniels, when everybody was still highly touting Caleb Williams. Like, nobody saw that coming. So I think it's easy to say him. I mean, really, I think it harkens back to our prior conversation, and you have to look to the defensive side of the football and the way that those guys have shown up throughout the season. And to me, I think it has to be Mikey. I think that Mikey, the way that he has stepped up, it's been instrumental. And without him playing the way that he has played across the course of the season, I think we would be getting blown out by teams. I think that we would be in an incredibly vulnerable position to any passing offense, because then we truly would have had nobody to cover any sort of talent in that area. I think that he has, the way that he has developed personally and as well as with the coherence of this team, as we discussed, I think is really commendable. He came in with a chip on his shoulder and he's continued to be selfless, much like with Jeremy Chin. He's not overextending, trying to go for a highlight play. He is just involved and physical, snap in and snap out. I'm really impressed with what I've seen from him. Some other honorable mentions. Obviously, you have to say Chris Rodriguez, the way that he has shown up for this team. And I mean, a guy that literally was not on the roster when this season started and now is one of the most instrumental parts of the running group core and the offense as a whole. Jeremy Chin is another guy I'd love to give a great shout for. And then, I mean, the renaissance of Bobby Wagner and the way that he is paired with Frankie Louvu. It's a team effort that I think that it's so difficult to pin down one guy that has really surprised you because, I mean, as Robert Mays said on Take Command, everybody surprised you. Nobody saw this coming. This has been the best story of the NFL season, without a doubt, how good this team has been. And it's astonishing. We're all really lucky to be watching it firsthand and seeing what is the rejuvenation of an organization. But if I had to pick one, I think I'd have to go with Mikey. What about you?
So I think the defense is obvious, but the people that aren't given enough love, Bobby Johnson and his offensive linemen, his big uglies up front, from the shift duty between Brandon Coleman and Cornelius Lucas to come out there, and now Brandon Coleman, who's doing better in pass protection, and is coming on strong. Looks like he's a possible hit. Nick Allegretti on that left guard side, because remember that was one of the biggest questions coming in there. What is this left side?
We didn't have anybody. Nobody had any idea.
We didn't know it. Tyler Badass as well. I mean, Biotish, as we call it, as the government calls him. But the way he's come there and he's played, and just how he's been a tone center right there at the heart, at the center spot. Sam Cosmi is Sam Cosmi, so no surprise there. I think how well Andrew Wiley has improved. And then Cornelius Lucas, how he played in the backup role. Don't waste him on the left side when you got Coleman there. You put him on the right side. So you've had 6 guys who have come in here and played really well. Bobby Johnson, who was pretty much everybody looked at that hire and was like, it makes no sense. He was up there at the Giants. Yeah, but he was at the Bills at first too. And the Bills had a pretty good running game, rushing attack with a young quarterback by the name of Josh Allen, who's in the MVP race right now. Not my MVP, somebody else's MVP though. So I'd have to say the renaissance of this offensive line, and pretty much just like night and day in what they were able to do with them. They've helped Jaden out. They've helped him stay healthy. Let's be honest. Jaden's injury came from on the run, not in the pocket.
No.
And, they can't help that. So I think, with his help too, it's helped them gain confidence as well, because there were some times early on, I remember in the Giants game, I think he took technically like 3 sacks, but they were really more like runs, but they were sacks just because they were like 1-yard losses and everything. So I think they have worked together. Here's our word of the day, folks. Cohesively, and another one, holistically. But that's my biggest surprise. Biggest disappointment, Benjamin St. Juste. I don't think he should be deported right now. His green card should be ripped up, and he should be in here for I mean, he's an enemy of the state pretty much since day one.
No, he's a full-blown terrorist. I would say biggest disappointment is a tough one. And I want to preface this by, I don't mean it as a knock at all. but I think I would throw Sinnott in there. Sinnott was a
Hmm.
guy that I was pretty high on, that I think fans in general were pretty high on, that
Hmm.
fans, even up to this past week, have been really calling for to see on the field along with Ertz, to see him get involved. And, time and time again, he just didn't really show up. I don't think it was any fault of his own necessarily on game day. It indicated to me that Dan and Cliff and co were seeing something in practice that they just really didn't like, and that they really were not confident getting him on the field. I thought that he was going to be a bigger part of this offense than he has panned out to be. But once again, all of this to say, this was, lofty preseason expectations, not to say by any means that he isn't going to come out and continue to develop and have a very long career just at this point. And I would say the same for Luke McCaffrey. Obviously, I've been on the bandwagon all season long. I've been waiting for that moment. He was a guy that really was in that great Cinderella story that everybody wanted to see, makes the cut to the full team, was getting media attention, obviously, because he is Christian's little brother, but also getting media attention for the way he was playing in practice when he was doing the joint preseason practices. He was getting touches on the ball, even week in and week out, appears to be open,
Hmm.
but just isn't getting the numbers that I think a lot of people thought we were going to see from a guy that was being thrown around as a potential wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 role. I'm a little bit disappointed in that. I wouldn't necessarily coin either of those guys as quote unquote disappointments, but I think in a lot of ways they fell short of the lofty expectations that fans and myself had for them.
Give me a letter grade for the offense.
I think it's difficult to not put them in the A range. I think I don't even like classifying the 3-game loss streak as an offensive slump. Obviously, it was, but I think that was more like what we actually should have been playing like at the beginning of the season. I think that immediately the way that this team was rocking and rolling, just points on points on points on points, obviously elevated everybody's expectations. Even when they came down to earth in those losses and were struggling, I don't think that they were, they weren't playing great. And obviously it was frustrating, but I wouldn't at all say that we were seeing an offense to the likes of like the Panthers or something like that, where it was just completely disjointed. I wouldn't go as far as to say they were bad. I would say that they were off, but they were not bad. I think that you'd have to put them at overall an A minus. I think you could tinker with a B plus, but just look, I mean, we've got 8 wins in the year 2024 in what is essentially year 0 of a rebuild on a team that everybody's defense knows is run-of-the-mill mediocre, and we have beat the
Hmm.
Bengals. We have put up fights against the Eagles, against the Ravens. No matter what people say week in and week out, this offense has been incredibly impressive. They have done things with Jaden Daniels at the helm that nobody could have seen coming, and I think it's difficult to not give them an A- rating with all of that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I give them a B plus because of that slump, and I'm a tough grader anyway.
I
Um,
could toy with a B plus.
yeah, I get uh, okay, yeah, maybe B plus B, maybe. I think we need to see some more 300-yard games from
Yeah,
Jaden passing. And to your point about getting some of these weapons involved, like your Senates and Luke McCaffrey. And like I said, we're not at practice. We don't know how they're responding in practice, how they're responding in the film room, in the classroom, and whatnot. So we don't know. All we know is what we see on Sunday and what we hear from our friends in the media, whoever they might be. So with that, I could give them a B plus right now because I think A is uh, 10-2, not
fair.
not 8-5. Um, Defensively, I'm going to give them. If you're grading on a curve, I think you have to give them an A.
I was
But
going to say the same thing.
yeah, and this is grading on the curve
On
regularly.
the
I
curve.
probably
Yeah, on
yeah
the curve. On the curve, they
yeah
get an
yeah.
A.
It's Matty Ice on Chris Russell's show said the other. It's like organic chemistry, right?
Yeah.
most people are probably getting it. The best people are probably getting a 70 or something. And I would probably give this defense a C plus if we weren't rating on a curve. But I think of their effort and out of expectation, they deserve an A. But in real life, I give them a C plus because I feel like there's moments that they just can't get off the field. They've struggled against the run with some of those big uglies up front. So with that, I gotta give them a C plus. But for effort and everything, and sweetening the pot because this defense was terrible last year, I give them an A.
Yeah, I agree with that rating completely. I think that the way that they have continuously failed to play a full 4 quarters of football and let teams take advantage of them in the fourth quarter, i.e., you harken back to the Giants game, you harken back to the Steelers game, the way that teams were able to get the run game going against them in the fourth and how it really battered them, not only because the teams were moving the sticks, but when they're able to run the ball like that, they're able to control the clock and they limit how much time Jaden has to get back on the field. Obviously they've still let team stars take advantage of them, the likes of Chase, the likes of Flowers, the likes of Derrick Henry, the likes of Saquon Barkley, the likes of A.J. Brown. Those guys are still able to make big plays. And when they're not making big plays, I would attribute it more to their own team's failure than our success in many cases. But like you said, on the curve, this team, we expected mediocrity. Well, we were hoping for mediocrity. We got mediocrity, and we have seen them continue to grow together and individually week over week. And so on the graded scale, I think you'd have to give them an A.
Yeah. There you go. And that's our wrap up for that. I think we got 4 more games to go now.
4 games left, Corey.
4
this is the
games.
home stretch. Road to 11 wins.
Yes.
Road to 11 wins.
Road to 2-2, right? You got to go 2-2 down the stretch, and you can make it happen. First time in a while, but it's like orange is the new black. 40 is the new 30. 11 is the new 10. I'd like to see 12 because I just feel like in that respect, and high expectations though. But William, we'll get back at it next week, bro, as we get ready for the Marshawn Lattimore homecoming.
Highly anticipated, Corey. Give it to me.
Don't pull hamstring on this one, but but I appreciate you, brother. As always, we'll be talking to you. And if you made it this far, we owe you a hot dog, I guess, or something like that. So make sure you follow William at William_Fauché on the X, and then listen to Take Command podcast and all that good stuff. And then probably won't be here Sunday. Maybe might be here Sunday for a little bit. But going to try to do something new throughout the week as well, y'all. So stay tuned for that. But as always, we keep that same damn energy. We outlast the bastards together. Sanchez 405 for my guy William. Love, peace, and hell. Till next time, somebody play the damn theme music because we out of here.